der Kaffee süßer, lieblicher als 1000 Küsse, nieder aus Muskatenwein. Ei, ei, wie schmeckt der Kaffee? Ei, ei, wie süß. Ei, wie schmeckt der Kaffee süße, lieblicher als 1000 Küsse, nieder als Muskatenwein, nieder als Muskatenwein. Kaffee, Kaffee, Kaffee muss ich haben. Und wenn jemand mich will haben, ach,
Well, hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between. How the heck are you? I am Diana Clarion, the Lavender Lady, and this is Coffee with Lavender. And today we have the magnificent Mrs. Snarky
Oh,
aboard the program.
you're too kind. Howdy, y'all.
Oh, it's great to have you, hon.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it is indeed my pleasure. Would everybody over on the side please let me know how you're hearing everything, if you're hearing Snarky? Because I know I always have the audio problems when I'm starting up, and I tried to get around them earlier today, and I don't know if it worked. So let me know if you
Yeah.
heard Snarky say hi. Uh,
Hi, I'm talking now. If you hear me, let me know. Yeah, it's a common problem.
yeah, I wish
Uh,
I knew. I wish
I,
I knew. Oh, good. Okay, Josiah, you're hearing us both? That's a good thing, I hope. Yay?
yeah, Gallus Iwan is hearing us with his ears as opposed to his mouth.
Oh, wow. What, does he usually bite into the computer and he gets the vibrations?
Yes.
Who was it? One of the deaf composers did that by biting into his piano and he would get the vibrations.
Oh,
I
is that
forget
Beethoven?
I forget if it was Beethoven or Dvorak,
Oh,
because
wow.
they were both deaf. Um, Good
Oh,
morning,
can you
Brent.
imagine?
And Shadow Kitty, hi, how are you? And
Some
hi,
of my
Casey.
favorite people in this chat.
Oh, I tell you, I don't know how I deserve it, but I get all the good people coming in here, and that's a
You're a good
wonderful thing.
person. Don't even. You are awesome.
um,
You're a lovely
Matthews,
person.
Matthew says, "Don't kink shame me." what
Oh,
I'm
he's such a cutie pie.
what I'm going to do, if nobody minds, is I'm going to share this guy again. See if we can't get a few people in here. There we go. And okay, as far as oh, Faye, hi Faye,
Hey!
yay! Oh, for the love of Saint Gulick, yeah.
Oh, I
I
hope you're all staying warm because it's really cold today.
oh no.
It's
Um,
freezing. We've had so much snow. I think we've had enough snow to last at least 2 years.
My my taskbar tells me that the local air temperature is 57 degrees Fahrenheit,
Oh wow.
which is very, very welcome around here because it's been one of the reasons I have been in bed quite a lot. I think you guys know the other reason, but one of the reasons is because it's warm. Get under the
Yeah.
blankets and it's really nice and warm. Excuse
Yes.
me. And it's kind of not the greatest impetus to get out from under the covers.
Mm-hmm. It's warm here. I'm not leaving.
Okay,
Yes.
so I mean, what I might do is have the Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle playing from YouTube for like 18 hours straight.
Oh yeah. They got Bugs Bunny on there too.
Oh my, I have to look for that one.
Hell yeah, I love Bugs Bunny. I'll binge watch that shit.
All right, well,
That's my favorite.
what's your favorite? What's your favorite Bugs Bunny cartoon?
Oh, there's so many. I like the one where he's doing the orchestra. Da-da, da-da, da-dun, dun.
Is that the one with the singer?
He's like conducting an orchestra, and this fly keeps coming around.
Oh, this might be a one other than the one I remember.
Yeah,
Try,
because there was one where he did like Figaro, and he was trolling the singer. That
yes,
was a
that was
funny
the
one
one I was
too.
thinking of. Yes,
And
where the
also
guy's
the
pants are falling off.
yes, that was funny. And there was also the one where oh my god, what is that huge red monster thing? And he's doing its hair.
Oh my word! Oh, they're such interesting.
I also like the, diabolical sabotage, the one in the airplane with the gremlin.
That's my favorite one, the one with the
Yeah?
gremlin. Yes, absolutely. I'm trying to remember what it was called.
Yeah,
It
I
had
don't remember.
it had something to do with the Air Forces, but I cannot remember what that title was. But yeah, that the gremlin was just so goddamn cute. Okay.
Yes, it was.
And the ending was perfect.
Yes.
Because remember that was a World War II cartoon, and remember that Warner Brothers was doing things for the adults as
Yes.
well as the kids. So when
Yes.
the airplane is in the nosedive and then comes to a screeching halt inches above the ground, and they're leaning out the window, and Bugs is holding the ration cards. He said, "Yeah, that's what you get for these C cards."
Yes.
Perfect, absolutely perfect.
Yeah, it was very brilliant.
Those guys,
The writers of that were just mwah.
yeah, they were geniuses. They really were.
Yes.
Um, but as far as that goes, yeah, the reason I brought you in, Lou Snarky and I were talking about this in the green room. I had mentioned to her. If you guys remember a couple of weeks ago, I went on video after I had awakened from a nightmare. The video was entitled, let me see now, Sweet Dreams, was it?
Um, oh gosh.
It was the one with the kitten as
Yeah,
the sleeping kitten.
I'll have to look at my list to see. But yeah, it was
And
I
then
know it was one of your a day in the life ones.
yes, and then
Uh,
you Snarky had mentioned, yeah, that PTSD is a horrible thing. And well, for
yes.
whatever reason, I don't think of PTSD. That's not the first thing that comes to my mind when I'm dealing with the nightmares. But you're mentioning it kind of made things click and say, well, wait a minute, maybe she's got a point here.
Yeah.
So if I don't know about PTSD, I'm sure a lot of other people don't know about PTSD. So I thought, okay, why don't we have a discussion about this? If
Oh yeah.
and since you had been the person to mention it, if you didn't mind, I thought, okay, how about if you come on and talk about it? First thing I might ask is, what is it? How does one define PTSD?
Well, PTSD is whenever you go through something that's traumatic, like when your life is in danger or when you witness something atrocious happening and you experience, trauma. It's the effect on your brain and your life and your feelings after that. So post trauma.
Okay, which is the
And
PT.
yeah. So, and it can last, depending upon what the circumstances are, it can last for a long time.
Yeah, tell me about that one. Because
Yeah.
if this that I am dealing with is indeed PTSD, as you seem to believe it is, and I'm having no reason to doubt you. It's been well over 50 years. It's been well over a
Mhm.
half century. So yeah, it's if that's something that'll last that long, that's got to be a horrible thing.
Oh yeah, it is. And another thing too is you can experience PTSD if you have been um, through like a natural disaster or terrorist attack, or you've been in combat, or if you've been raped. Um, any kind of traumatic occurrence can cause that, and we've experienced this the most through veterans, combat veterans. During World War I and World War II, it was called shell shock.
Yeah. Hmm.
And as we examined it more and more, we found out we renamed it PTSD, and especially during the Vietnam War, it was very prevalent because those guys and gals went through a whole lot of trauma. They saw things that people should never see, not even in combat. So, and the thing about this is it's one of those disorders that goes across any nationality, any ethnicity, any culture, and at any age. So, if you're a kid, it can happen to you too. If you experience trauma as a child, the symptoms of that can last your entire life. It changes your brain.
And there's the unfortunate thing. I don't know about anybody on the side chat. What I deal with right now, the nightmares very often center around the slimy bastards.
Right.
So yeah. Uh, Hang on, I gotta clear my throat here. And I see some people mentioning interesting things that I had never thought of. Uh, Brent mentions that childbirth can engender PTSD. Have you heard of that one, Jen?
Not so. I mean, if you had a devastating childbirth, like I don't know if he means for the child or for the woman. I'm pretty sure he means for the woman. If
I'm
it was
guessing that.
if it was a difficult labor, or if something happened with the child during birth, then yes, it would be a traumatic instance. So I
Yeah,
could see that.
anything that qualifies. The
Yeah.
funny damn thing is, well, maybe it's not all that funny. I mean, I don't have nightmares about the time I was held up. I have nightmares about those two. But then
Hmm.
again, they were doing their thing a lot longer than I was in the holdup.
Yeah, and too, it's kind of a subjective experience, right? If you have people that are supposed to love and care for you the most abusing you in some way, that
Yeah.
shit really does a number on you. And for me, my PTSD is a result of childhood trauma and also sexual assault. So I've got like a double whammy of this shit. Uh, but the stuff that happened between my parents and it tends to stick a lot more than the sexual assault. It really does
That's interesting.
because it also led to lots of feelings of abandonment and lots of other issues that have to deal with my emotions and my interactions with other people and relationships that made it really difficult for me in my early adult life.
Okay. Oh man, Brant, sounds like you're one of the few people who hasn't heard that term yet. The slimy bastards are the two people who went to the baby store, uh, looked at the rack, pointed, and said, "I want that one," and took me home.
Yeah.
In other words, they are the people that the rest of the world called my parents. Um, and there's also MSB and FSB, male slimy bastard and female slimy bastard. You'll hear that from time to time out of me because I refuse to call them my parents. They never were.
Now
Uh,
there are certain terms that one must know to understand the complexity of the lovely lady that we know as Lavender.
oh my, complex. I don't know. Is it complex or is it just?
Oh yeah, it's definitely complex. It really is when you're talking about your life situation and the dynamics between your slimy bastard parents. Uh, it's very complex, and as Godless Iowin pointed out in the chat, your brain is not capable of fully separating past trauma with current events. So anything that brings the past trauma to mind is treated as a current event. And this is
Okay.
where I would like to highlight the word trigger. Because if
Uh-huh.
people talk about it's kind of a pejorative, right? Oh, triggered.
Yeah,
But
a lot of
really,
people do that whole snowflake thing, which
yeah,
they're really full of it when they do that.
it bugs the shit out of me when some people say triggered as a joke because And I try not to be that vocal about it, which I probably should, because as someone with PTSD, this is a very serious thing. And a trigger can be anything, any kind of stimuli. For me, bleach is a trigger. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a childhood thing, and I connect events with that smell. So when I smell it, I pretty much relive my trauma,
Ooh.
and it can affect me for days, if not weeks. Used to affect me longer than it does now, but I've learned some coping skills that kind of help me get through it. I still get the trigger, but I can deal with it better.
Okay. Um, and then there was a couple of things I remember from the post of the video. Some people came back to me and said, "Well, look, it's not that big a thing. Just suck it up and take and deal with it and everything else." Can you speak to that? Because I have a feeling that a lot of people don't quite understand how significant this is, um, how horrible it is, really. When
Yeah,
it's not as simple in the same way that depression and sadness are not equal.
yeah,
PTSD and whatever they would call what they would call it are not necessarily equal as well.
yeah. There's a lot of ignorance out there when it comes to most subjects. I mean, let's just face it. And there are people that will just look at your issues as lesser than what they really are because they don't understand the complexity. It's just like, when you tell people, well, I have depression. Well, suck it up. Well, no, I'm not sad. I have something occurring in my brain that's making me feel
Yeah,
horrible.
yeah,
This is something that's long term. I don't just get over the chemical imbalance in my brain, right? So it's not that simple.
yeah,
And the way that your subconscious mind and everything connects these occurrences together, you can't control this. You can't just suck it up. Like, I've had times when I was triggered when I would just right there have an anxiety attack. Like, I have panic disorder and things like that because that are tied into the whole PTSD. So it's not like just, oh, I'm feeling kind of uncomfortable. It's my body, my entire body is reacting to a stimuli that reminds me of my trauma. It's not something I can just bootstraps my way out of.
yeah. I like what Casey hashtag Heathen has to say. It bothers her when people equate their uncomfortable with the bunny ears
Mhm.
around it with her actual post-traumatic stress syndrome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a feeling that if folks out there would try to do a little better with comprehending the gravity of this, things might get a little better. But of course, there's a large what do you want to call it? Mental adjustment, if you want to call it that, that is needed. Just like
Yeah.
depression is not the SADS, PTSD is not uncomfortableness,
Right.
as we were saying. Um, and I guess that brings me. How about actual treatments? I mean, are there any out there that are actually effective?
Yes. Cognitive behavioral therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy is amazing as a coping mechanism. And what it does is it challenges the thought process and the core beliefs that you have associated with your thoughts and the feelings of your trauma. It works wonderfully. And it's part of the reason why now it's a lot, I don't want to say easier, but it's not as bad now when I'm dealing with triggers than it was before I had my CBT. And there's also medications that people take for anxiety. That helps too.
I
Um,
remember those.
yeah, that helps too. And initially, you might need some medication for helping you sleep, especially if you have those flashback dreams, because one major part of PTSD is the flashbacks.
Yeah.
And I was going to go into how whenever you are triggered
Well,
by a
please do that.
smell or some kind of reminder of the trauma, what will happen is you will be taken right back to it. And sometimes, I mean, it can be so severe, like in the case of the combat troops from Vietnam War, it can be so real that they can't differentiate between the reality and the flashback.
Okay,
So,
yeah.
and a lot of times those dreams that you have are the same way. It feels so real that it's almost as if you've been teleported right back to the instance of your trauma. So, one way that the CBT helps is to remind you this is not happening. You can question whether or not this is a thing that you have recently or are currently experiencing. And whenever you experience trauma, especially from your parents,
Hmm.
you tend to have these core beliefs about yourself based on how they treated you. And a lot of times, those core beliefs, when challenged with questions like rational questions that get to whether or not these beliefs are true, a lot of times that will do a lot more help than any medication.
Yeah, I mean, the drugs, they're not a panacea for anything, really, they're not. I mean, I've been on every antidepressant known to man in the last 30 years and see how far it's got me, right? Uh,
Yeah. Well, I mean, they do, especially like, whenever you're really close to that traumatic event, the medication does wonders. Okay. Don't stop your meds.
right.
If you have it's shown through research that medication along with CBT does make a huge difference in not only PTSD but also depression.
Yeah,
It's this combination that really is effective.
now my problem, and this is really going to be the funny part of it all, was that the most effective antidepressant I was ever on potentiated the nightmares.
Mm,
If you're familiar with mirtazapine,
tazepine.
also known as Remeron,
Oh no, I haven't. That's
it's
one I don't know.
it's an atypical, um, and I went on it in 2013, and it was the best. It actually did something for me. It actually helped, unlike the tricyclics, unlike
Yeah, SSRIs.
the selective serotonin, yeah, SSRIs, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. Um, and at first it was great, but then after a few years, started potentiating the nightmares, and that's really, I guess, where non-drug therapy really has to play in. And so far, I have not been so lucky as to find someone good with CBT. How difficult is it to find somebody who is well versed in CBT?
I think it would depend on where you are because for me, yeah, amitriptyline, that's another medication that'll do like what you described. Anyway, it depends on where you are. I think a lot of places, see, I was really lucky to be in a county where they had a PTSD specialist who did this. But yeah, I mean, just go to your mental health professional office and ask them specifically if they have someone who offers CBT. Um,
And then, of course, this brings up the next question. How about those people who can't afford mental health treatment? Is there anything they can do? Because
yeah,
I'm going to bring up my own situation just as an example. Um, the health clinic that I'm associated with opened a mental health arm, but it turns out that my insurance didn't cover them. And I was on the hook for half a grand for 3 visits. So the visits are out of the question for me right now. So what does a person, what a person like me in my position, what can that person do?
Well, there's a lot of programs that can help people with mental health. I'm trying to find. I know that Faye has a lot of these resources. She has a lot more resources than I do. But
Faye has
first,
everything.
oh yeah, Faye is just amazing with that stuff. Um, there's let's see, U.S. recovery mental health organizations. So if you have mental health organizations, you can check online in your state and see what they have. There's also NAMI, which is specifically for mental health things, and you can also go to your mental health facility, your local county kind of clinic, and you can ask them for what local resources that you have available to you, because there are people that do care and they will try to help you find what you need. You can have sliding scale, and a lot of times they will just go by your income, and if you qualify you can get it for free or at least very very cheap, like
Yeah,
$5 or something like that. So
well,
there's a
I'm
lot more out there than people I think are aware.
yeah, I managed to get down to $20 a visit, but even that was a little heavy, especially now
Yeah.
when I'm visiting a lot more other people.
Right.
This is where we really need to revise the system. We need to make it better because there are the people who are not wealthy, who do
Yeah.
not have spiffy employer supplied health plans that include everything. And
Hmm.
it's those people that really, really need the help. As you say, there are people who want to help, definitely. And in a lot of cases, their hands are tied.
Yeah, and this is the thing about it, is that's really a vicious cycle. Is you're more likely to experience trauma if you're poor,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's kind of like this horrible situation that you're in, because you're poor, so you experience trauma. You're poor, therefore you can't get help for experienced trauma. So, but yeah, hashtag heathen also provided a source, seculartherapy.org. So there's something else that could be checked out.
All right.
But
Okay. And thank you for putting the link in there, so some
yes,
people can grab that up and smush that button, if you will.
hell
Um,
yeah.
Yeah, because I've not been. I see that you're lucky enough, Faye, to have the CBT. I've never been lucky enough to have encounter anybody any good at it. Um, so maybe I'll get lucky one of these days.
There are some wonderful books out there too on CBT, and there's also resources online where you can like grab the worksheets and stuff that they use in CBT and do it from home. Uh,
Okay, I have a
if
vague recollection of a book and workbook set that may have dealt with that, but this was about 10 years ago, so the name of it escapes me. I don't know if it's still on my library shelf or not, but I'm not going back there because there will be all sorts of strange noises coming out of my headphones, and you folks won't like that.
one thing too that I'd like to point out is that CBT comes from philosophy. It comes from Stoic philosophy, which is challenging your thoughts. So to see if they're more rational and to get away from the highly charged emotional aspect of it and see it as it is and accept what you cannot control and respond best to what you can. And the best response that you can have is in your thoughts. And what I mean by that is when you're feeling a certain way, notice your thoughts, the thoughts that you're having that associate with that feeling, and challenge them. See if they're true. See if you're being overgeneral. See if you're catastrophizing. See if you're having some cognitive pitfalls in your thinking. There are all kinds of cognitive distortions, as you well know.
Oh, indeed.
Uh, Black or white thinking, overgeneralization, making things catastrophic. So, exaggerating things to where they're way worse in your mind than they actually are. And if you challenge this, it can help you a lot. And uh, I know some people don't like philosophy, but it does help.
Well,
It really does.
I don't know if it's the case that I'm not happy with philosophy or I'm not happy with philosophers. There's a
Yeah.
difference. There's a big difference.
Yeah, there's a lot of philosophers I have issues with. But yeah, with
And
the
I'm not mentioning any names out in California. None of them. Uh,
no names, no names. These are
no,
these are the
no Navy nuke names. Nope.
but that's one of the reasons why I am so passionate about philosophy, and not in a way that I'm an educated, sophisticated philosopher type person. I don't care about that. I'm not impressed with that. I think that people pervert things in a way that makes them feel better, as opposed to actually looking at the philosophy and finding a use for it in everyday life.
Yeah.
So,
I've dealt with some people who have gone off on, well, you haven't read Wittgenstein or you haven't read
ugh,
Nietzsche or no, they're not gods. They're just people who put their underwear on one leg at a time, just like everybody else. Don't come on. Um,
I
and
would say some of the cynics didn't even wear underwear. You're,
okay.
you're lucky if they were dressed at all.
Oh, it's yeah, as you say, I really like learning how to think. Yeah, maybe you can call philosophy that. Um, but so many people do turn it into what to think. They have their pet philosophers, or they simply want to one up everybody
Yeah.
else, and
And
that's
that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. And I would say that it does them no good, and it definitely is a stain on philosophy itself, because there is no one way to think in philosophy. There's a plethora of different ways of thinking.
okay.
And
Yeah,
many of them useful, a lot of them not.
yeah, okay.
But when it comes to stoicism, I think that it's the most useful of the philosophical schools, because it highlights the struggle of life, and it highlights how difficult it is to deal with certain things. And
The struggle for tuna and chicky.
yeah.
What are you taking off, Sylvia?
It's kind of like you know how when they go through like a drug rehab and stuff like that, how they have this saying, give me the strength or the wisdom to know the difference between the things I can control and the things I can't.
Oh, that one. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, that is directly from the line of Stoic thought. Because when you're able, how many times have you caught yourself worrying about things you have no control over, or the
Oh, I
past?
I never do that. Never, ever, ever do I do that. No.
Are you worried about the past? Are you worried about the future? Are these things that you what can you control about that? What use is it to you really to worry about things that are out of your control?
Yeah, and
And if you
especially lately, the future is on the mind, and I guess you have to do something to minimize the over impact.
Yeah. Well, the way that you can do that in any situation is to focus your energy on the things that you can do, which is your responses and your thoughts and your actions regarding the circumstance.
Okay, and I suppose action is intertwined with CBT. If you want to call it
Uh,
behavioral. therapy.
It's
So,
yeah. I mean, yeah, it is because if you think about it, your actions are kind of like guided by your thoughts and feelings, right? So if you feel a certain way, you're going to act a certain way. But
mm-hmm.
if you challenge those thoughts that are making you feel a certain way, then you're going to behave differently. Like if you realize that there's something that in your past that you can't control, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a piece of shit, right?
Yeah.
Then you're going to behave differently with that state of mind.
Oh no, I see over in the side chat. My favorite nephew says lap cats make him sneeze. Darn.
Oh, they do.
That's not good. No.
They make him sneeze, and like we have one of our cats, like he'll pet her and he just instantly breaks out.
Oh, so Matt is allergic to cats and you have cats. Great.
Yeah.
Who
Well,
thought that was a good idea?
our one cat doesn't bother him at all. It's just his mother that bugs him. It's weird. It's so weird.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Okay, Matthew, what is this? Oh, hey, gotta go, everyone. Just got the notification that I'm going live with your wife soon. Excuse me, we've been live for 40 minutes. Where have
Yeah.
you been?
Yeah, YouTube. What the hell? Oh my god.
Oh man, that amazes me the way those notifications. Thank you. Uh, run so late. I don't know what their problem is. Really, I don't. And I know that pulled us off of what we were talking about, but
That's fine.
oh
Now we can
man.
talk about bunny hair because it's luxurious and cute.
Oh yes, it absolutely is. Friend of mine,
Bunny.
friend of mine had a bunny fur vest. Softest thing in the entire world, really was, and
I'm
warm.
what?
Yeah, he had a bunny
Bunny.
fur vest.
What?
Uh-oh, PTSD.
I'm hashtag triggered.
I'm
Oh, Lord
trying
have
to
mercy.
remember. One of my pairs of mittens may have had bunny fur lining, because I remember
Oh.
having had a really warm set of mittens, but I can't remember if that was the case or if that was just something like that. Allergic to bunnies? No, no. If it makes you feel any better, I used to actually have bunnies. Uh,
Yay!
they were the cutest little bunnies on the face of the earth. The only problem with them, they liked to gnaw on the molding in the house, the baseboards and the molding that went around the windows and that sort of thing. They
Aw,
they did a
naughty
Yeah,
bunnies.
they did a pretty good job on that stuff. They kind of had the run of the house for a while, and
Yeah, them rodents. They
well,
will do the gnawing.
actually, they're not rodents. It's the amazing thing. They're lagomorphs.
Oh, that's right. You're right. It,
Um,
it has the rodent teeth.
yeah, and there's a difference. What is it now? One of them has two pairs of incisors, and one of them has one pair, or something like that. The
Oh.
teeth is one way to make a difference. Is one way